Okay, let's dive into what might just be the most powerful and definitely the most common question in all of human history. It's a question a little kid can ask, but it's one that has kept philosophers up at night for, well, centuries. You know the drill. Why did the glass fall? Why is the sky blue? Why do I feel this way? We're just constantly, endlessly searching for reasons, for explanations. It's literally how we make sense of our world.
But what if I told you that this simple three-letter word, why, is actually a master of disguise? That when we ask it, we're not just asking one question. We're asking four completely different ones. Yeah, a pretty rebellious 19th century German thinker thought so, and honestly, his answer kind of changes everything.
And that thinker was, of course, Arthur Schopenhauer. His whole journey to unmask the question, why, didn't start with some grand public announcement, but with something a lot more focused. A university project, actually.
It all started way back with his 1813 doctoral dissertation. And look, the title is a real mouthful, On the Fourfold Root of the Principle of Sufficient Reason. But the idea behind it is revolutionary. See, the principle of sufficient reason just means that nothing happens without a reason. Schopenhauer's whole goal was to untangle the messy web that he thought other philosophers had spun around this really simple idea. So here's the big idea. Schopenhauer argued that for ages, we've been lumping totally different kinds of explanations together under this one umbrella of why. And he believed that if we could just pull them apart, we'd get a much, much clearer picture of reality. He called these four distinct types of explanation the four roots. So, what are they? What are these four different ways we ask why? Let's break down his system one root at a time.
First up, we've got the why of becoming. This is the one we all know, the one we use every day. It's just straight up physical cause and effect. Why did the second billiard ball move? Well, because the first one hit it. Simple, direct. This is what governs all the changes we see happening in the world around us.
Second is the why of knowing. Now this one has nothing to do with physical things bumping into each other. This is all about logic and reason. Why is the conclusion of an argument true? Because it has to follow from the premises. This is the world of abstract proofs and logical certainty. The third root is where things get really, really interesting. The why of being. This one's about the very structure of how we perceive things, space and time itself. Why is this point here? Well, because of where it is in relation to all the other points. Why does 7 plus 5 equal 12? Schopenhauer argues it's because of the fixed, unchangeable sequence of numbers as we count them in time. It's all about pure, necessary relationships.
And finally, we have the fourth root, the why of acting. This one applies only to conscious beings, like you and me. Why did you reach for that cup of coffee? Because you had a motive. You felt tired. Schopenhauer calls this causality seen from within, which is a fantastic way to put it. It's the internal engine that drives what we do.
Okay, so Schopenhauer's given us this really neat logical system for understanding why. 4 clean categories for every explanation you could ever want. But, and this is a big but, this rational framework was just the beginning. It described the world we see, but it didn't explain the engine that drives it all.
And this brings us right to the heart of his entire philosophy, the difference between the world as representation and the world as will. The representation is the world we perceive through those 4 roots. It's structured, it's logical, it seems orderly. But behind all that, powering everything is the will, a blind, irrational, chaotic, and just relentless striving force.
And this will, it's not some gentle stream, okay? According to Schopenhauer, it's a raging, insatiable hunger. As he says, it's an unquenchable thirst that is fundamentally based on need and want. And because of that, it's based on pain. This striving can never, ever be satisfied, which means suffering isn't some accident in life, it's literally woven into the fabric of existence. An insatiable thirst that leads to constant suffering. If that sounds familiar, you're definitely onto something. This is where Schopenhauer's philosophy takes a really surprising turn, and he arrives at a conclusion that was reached thousands of years earlier, half a world away. Turns out, Schopenhauer was one of the very first major Western philosophers to seriously dig into Eastern thought, especially Buddhism, and what he found there was just astonishing. Working all by himself, from his study in Germany, he had basically reconstructed the foundational logic of Buddhism.
I mean, just look at these parallels. It's incredible. Schopenhauer's will to live is a perfect match for the Buddhist idea of tanha, which means craving or thirst. The constant striving and suffering that results from that, that's dukkha. The ordered world of our experience, which is driven by all this suffering, is samsara. And Schopenhauer's solution, the negation of the will, is basically the same concept as nibbana, liberation. It's just uncanny.
Now, because of this whole life is suffering diagnosis, Schopenhauer often gets slapped with the label of the ultimate pessimist. But that is a profound misunderstanding of what he was trying to do. It's like calling a doctor a pessimist just for telling you you're sick.
Right. This is the crucial point. Schopenhauer, just like the Buddha, wasn't ending with a message of despair. He was starting with a diagnosis. His so-called pessimism is just a clear-eyed look at how the will works, at the mechanics of samsara. And think about it. You can't find a cure until you've correctly identified the illness, right?
And this brings us all the way back to our original question. For Schopenhauer, understanding the four whys, especially that why of acting, and seeing how it's all powered by the relentless, painful striving of the will, well, that isn't a reason to give up. It's the ultimate motive. It's the very reason why we should seek a path to freedom.
So it leaves us with this final thought to chew on. Can you ever really escape a prison if you don't first understand how the locks actually work? Is the rational act of putting a name to our suffering, of finding its root cause, the very thing that gives us the power to overcome it?